Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host Valerie, and sometime kitty co-hosts Miss Purrington and Mookie. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, our advice column, all of my Austin Chronicle articles on the Austin comedy scene, our festivals page listing upcoming festivals across the country and the world, and our FPIA contest page. We're best known for our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. If you want your show featured on the calendar, click the Submit a Show button from the top of the homepage or events page to complete the short survey. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo to our Instagram followers. Want to support these resources we provide? You can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Now back to our podcast. Launched in 2016, the Podcast Project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and we'll usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to somebody who's half of a comedy power couple. I probably shouldn't lead with that and should just lead with his credentials as a comic, but that's what I wanted to make everyone aware of. He is the co-host of the Works Every Time, a.k.a. The Wet podcast. Oh, it just makes me cringe.
I'm sorry.
At least it's not the Moist podcast.
No.
He is the 2019 Burbank Comedy Festival Best of the Fest Detroit to LA winner. You've seen him on the William Montgomery Show podcast, and his special Black Thanksgiving is on Amazon Prime. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Markus Olind.
Thank you so much. You hit every point. That was awesome.
I do decent research.
Yeah, you did. I mean, so the Works Every Time podcast, it was like we recorded like 3 or 4 before we came up with a name because we didn't want to just come up with a name for it. We wanted to see the vibe.
Yeah.
And we were calling one of the co-hosts, Philip Garcia. I don't know if you know him. We were calling his brothers just to get some content.
Yeah. And
one of them was just telling us a story from the night before when he was at a bar. He's like a younger guy, and he's like, oh, he just kept saying Works Every Time. So we're like, oh, that's a good name. And then we didn't even realize that the abbreviation would be W-E-T. It's wet. So it's like, oh man, okay. I'm not they always use the wet term, but I'm like, it just works every time. I don't know. But that's where that came from. So
there you go. Are your co-hosts younger than you?
Philip is younger than me. Justin is older than me. So
okay,
I'm the middle child.
Okay, so you can't even claim that, it's their young immaturity that comes through on that.
Well, you can be immature at any age.
That's true. I like to think I'm pretty immature, so. Well, welcome, Markus. Sorry for the delay. We had your lovely other half here last fall, and it was at that time that I learned that you two were a couple. And for people that don't know, it's Genevieve Clinton, who is amazing, and so we're going to just get that out of the way so that we can focus on Markus the comic.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we don't really go around telling people. We knew people we're both from Michigan. We knew people for probably a year or two where we had been dating and they didn't know. And we'd be going to their mics every week. And I remember there was this one guy when he found out we were dating, he's like, you guys are dating? I was like, I feel like you're the last person to find out. But yeah, I don't know. We don't know how to tell people stuff. So.
Yeah. And it's not like it happened in Austin. You guys came from Michigan together, made the choice. Well, as she tells it, you two had settled in Dallas at first.
For a little, yeah.
And then she came down, or you both came down for Kill Tony, right?
That's the first time we came from Dallas to Austin.
And she got picked and got booked. On the Secret Show right after, and I guess you both talked and realized, oh, Dallas isn't where we should.
Yeah, and Dallas was cool, but it was just kind of a holding place. We knew we wanted to eventually come to Austin, but yeah, when literally the first time we drove down here, she got pulled and, on Kill Tony, and it went well. And at that point, we were coming down here once or twice a week, and that's a long drive.
Yeah.
So we eventually were like, we don't have real, it's not like we had family in Dallas or anything that was keeping us there. So we were like, let's see if we can find something in Austin. So we found an Airbnb for 3 months and just stayed there until we could find something more permanent. Yeah. And it all worked out. So
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, let's go back to my official icebreaker question.
Okay.
Which is one word to describe your past.
Oh. Can I do a groan?
Yes. I've
I'll
had
do a
somebody
groan.
say oof.
Yeah, I'll go with whatever groan sound I just made. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, and so that's the one word. But it's just like, you've made so many mistakes in your past, and it's hard not to dwell on them, even though everyone tells you can't, and you got to move past. I don't know. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so there's part of that where it's just like, I quit drinking about 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
But like, you don't, of all the things you still forgot while you were drinking, it comes back to you at times. You're like, oh no, I did that, and this and this and that. So, but there's also a lot of cool things, a lot of parts of my past where it's like, oh man, and even just like driving here, there's parts of driving here where you're like, oh, this reminds me of California. This reminds me of the different places you've been. So, there have been a lot. I've lived a really cool life. I've had a lot of cool experiences, so I don't regret anything. But yeah, I guess the initial when you ask that, it's like I immediately go to the negative things. I don't know why I do that, but that's something else I got to work out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of things to be grateful for.
Sure.
But yeah, my mind jumps to all the things I messed up. Where I'm like, oh, you idiot. But
I'm very similar. Part of me wonders if that's like a Western European thing, because I'm very much influenced by my mom, who's Belgian. My dad was from South Texas, and much more chill vibe. And my mom is just this very stern Belgian woman. And, I always go to the negative.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's German. She raised me mostly, we're speaking German at home and all that. So like, there is that part of me where it's always that instant guilt. And I grew up Catholic too, so there's another level. And I grew up in the Midwest, so I have like triple guilt. It just never ends. So maybe that's something I got to figure out too. But like, I don't know. It just it's like the same with comedy, where if someone says you had a good set, but there's that one joke that you missed, it's all you're thinking about, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you would. It's a little bit OCD. It's a little bit this and that, but it's like at the end of the day, I have to force myself to remember the positive things, because otherwise my mind will naturally just think about the bad stuff. So,
yeah. When did you move to the States?
I was 5. We moved to Michigan when I was 5, and but I did. We used to go back a lot. Like we used to go back, a couple times a year, and then when my parents got divorced, I kind of stopped going back for a little bit, and then when I was like 17, we went back again, 17, 18, and then when I was 20 and 21, I was working over there, so that was fun. Excuse me, to be an adult working over there and just kind of figuring it out. It's like after like a month or two, my German is like back. You know what I mean? I can speak German, but like when I'm there and I'm just surrounded by it all the time, you start getting real fluent again. So that's fun. And I just felt, you feel healthy over there because you're not eating all the processed crap you eat.
Right. And you're walking everywhere. And
you're walking a lot.
Bicycling.
And I wasn't even eating like healthy. I was eating carbs, like a lot of carbs. But it's just when you don't have whatever they put in the food here, I don't know. You just do feel a little healthier. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, similar thing. My dad was very homesick. He met my mom over there. He was very homesick. So when I was 7 is when we moved to Texas.
Okay.
And my mom, in the summertime, she would ship me over to her mom, my grandmother, and I'd spend the summers there. And it was so cool because I was the American coming in for the summertime. So it was very fun to be, the little.
Well,
star.
yeah, it was always funny to me because like when we moved here, I didn't speak English or anything like that. So to all the kids in my school, I was like the foreign kid, and then when I would go back, I was the foreign kid there. So I've never fit in anywhere. Maybe that's why I do comedy now. But it was funny. Like when I was working over there when I was 21, I was just working like a finance internship, and I had a phone call with someone in America, so I was speaking English. So I'm just sitting there having the call in English, and then after the call's over, I hang up, and this German guy pops up from the other side of the cubicle or whatever. He's like, "Your English is so good," and I was like, "Oh yeah, he didn't know." Because like I've tricked people both ways, where it's like, and then there's people here where like if my mom calls me, I start speaking German on the phone. They look at me like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, hey, and these are people who know like I'm German. They're like, I didn't know like that German. I was like, what did you think I meant? I don't know. So people are always a little shy. But it's fun to shock people. And then there's the moments where there's like German people just around because they love to vacation.
Yep.
So like you'll just see them, and you don't want to, because you never want to be rude to anybody. But it's like every now and then there's a little point where you can insert, and then they're like, how did you know? You speak German? That's crazy. Like we were barking one time for a show. And, handing out flyers outside of Sunset, and there was a German couple who walked by, somebody handed them a flyer, and I heard them talk to themselves. They're like, I don't think we'll understand that. And I said in German, you'll understand it. And they were like, whoa, what? What are you doing here? And I was like, I'm just, if you want to check out the show. But yeah, I don't think they came to the show.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah, it is fun.
Yeah. Do you think that comedy and laughter is that something that you remember from your childhood?
I mean, I was thinking about this on the drive here. I don't know why, but like I do remember watching Three Stooges like very young, which that might be like my first comedy influence other than like I watched a lot of Saturday Night Live and stuff, but like I always loved comedy movies and just, TV shows. I never liked horror. I still don't like horror stuff.
Wow.
So like, yeah. And I know there's a lot of comics who do, but I just like, that was never something for me. But I did always like if you could get a laugh, because especially like if you're the weird kid, or like not the weird kid, but like you're the kid who's new, or you're the kid who doesn't fit in or whatever. If you can get a laugh, that's always like huge. So that was like a thing that I kind of, it just felt good as a kid. Like if you get a laugh as a kid, even if you were surrounded by adults, whatever, like it always just was a nice feeling. So I think maybe that's why I gravitated towards that. But yeah, and then I always try to avoid conflict. I think that's, again, like a divorced kid thing where, like, your parents are fighting, so you're like, I need to avoid that as much as possible. So you're trying to, like, find the opposite of that, which is a lot of times comedy. So, yeah, I guess from an early age. But, I just remember if we had the option to watch whatever we were watching, it was like, let's watch something funny. That's what I always wanted to do. So.
Yeah. When did the idea of you doing comedy start?
I was probably 20 or 21, somewhere around. So it was like when I was working over in Germany, because I didn't, TV over there is not as great as it is here. That's the one thing America does better than anywhere else is like entertainment. So just watching a lot of YouTube and a lot of YouTube stand-up, just, clips and random Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Doug Stanhope, whoever. And, it just got to a point where I was like, I would like to try this. And I had a friend who went to the same college as me who had been doing like open mics and stuff around there. So I just hit him up. I was like, hey, I want to try this. Like when I get back to Michigan, you show me where some mics are or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then that same summer, I got Bell's palsy. I don't know if you know what that is.
That's when like part of your muscle function in your face. Like, wow.
Yeah, so
and totally unexplained, cause, right?
A lot of times they really don't know what caused it. So luckily I was in Germany, so I got to go to the hospital for free. But it was a funny thing there where I was like, I went to the doctor. She's like, oh, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. Can you drive yourself there? I'm like, I'm fine minus my face. I could drive myself there. So I go to the hospital, and, I get seen by a doctor, and, she kind of runs me through my options. And she was like, if you want to stay in the hospital, you can get steroid treatment and have a way higher, percentage chance of it going completely away, right? I was young, so she's like, it'll go away anyway, but do you want the steroid treatment? And I was like, well, how much does that cost? She's like, nothing. It doesn't cost anything. I was like, oh, yeah, let's do that. But yeah, so I remember being in the hospital with nothing wrong, which is the weirdest thing. Because usually if you're there, you feel sick, but it's like there's literally nothing wrong with you other than that. So you're just laying around, and the whole time it's hard to talk, right? So at that point, I had already been thinking about doing stand-up. But then when that happened, I was like, you really can't take speaking for granted like that, because it can go away so quickly and for no reason, So I was like, I should really, as soon as I get back, I got to go start doing that. So then I started I did like my first mic, and then, it takes a while to get going, but eventually I got going. So
I'm curious, if you were already thinking about those things, but you were in Germany, was there any notion that there might be a German comedy scene for you to test out?
I mean, I'm sure there would have been, but when I was first starting, I had no idea where to even start, whether it was Germany or in Michigan or anywhere. I was just like, I'm watching this. I didn't really even know what an open mic was. I was just, I just knew my one buddy, and I was like, he's done open mics. He's told me about it, so maybe I'll just actually ask him and follow through on this stuff. But I was living outside of Frankfurt, so there has to be something there, like especially like expat communities. There's got to be something there. And I know I've been told a lot of people who've been to Berlin say there's a big stand-up scene there. So I would love to go do that, but it's like it's not cheap. You know, you gotta. I mean, even like road trips here, I'm like, are we gonna go to Houston for $50? You know, it's like, yeah, let's go to spend $2,000 to go to Germany and probably not make any money over there. It's like, yeah, it'd be fun, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But eventually, that'd be cool.
And then there's the whole like not necessarily like language, strictly speaking, but comedy is different depending on where you're performing it. I mean, you can even say that about the United States. Comedy in New York is different than comedy. Well, maybe less so different than comedy in Austin, but different from comedy in Portland or wherever, or, you know, small town versus big city. And if you're talking America versus Germany versus France versus India, you know, it's
the references.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the cool thing about when me and Jenny started in Detroit, you could go do a open mic in Canada like really easily because it's like 10 minutes depending on how long the border takes. If it goes smoothly, you can get across in like 10 minutes, and you can go do a mic in Windsor, Ontario, which is right across from Detroit. And like, yeah, you're 10 minutes from Detroit, from Michigan in America, but like your references are different. They don't have the same commercials. Like you realize how much of your comedy is based on like, have you seen this commercial or this and that? Yeah. So it's like, that was cool about Detroit. And you could drive like 45 minutes and you'd be in Ohio. So, like, if you really hustled in one night, you could do a mic in Detroit, Canada, and Ohio.
No way.
Yeah, you could, I mean, you're driving a lot, but you could get that done pretty, if you timed it. If everything worked out, you could do that. Sure. So, I mean, in terms of just, like, honing this joke worked in every spot. So this is a universal joke. Okay, this joke doesn't really work unless I'm in America. Or this joke only works, you know, if I'm here or that. So... yeah, that's part of comedy is just testing out material as you go, and not everything's going to work everywhere, and you don't want to have too many local jokes. That's the thing, like, you know, you see in Austin sometimes, oh my God, everyone has a joke about the homeless people. It's like, okay, all right, well, I've never heard that joke before. It's like, oh, another joke. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I got it. So it's like, that's just something where, excuse me, unless you have like a really unique take on it. Yeah. And it's frustrating when you see some of the out-of-town headliners come in, too, because they'll just open, and they do it everywhere they go, probably, where they're like, this is the town I'm in, this is what's going on in this, so let me open with that. But sometimes it's not, unless it's really good, a really good take, I don't find it that funny. Yeah, but yeah, it's like, you know, you got to figure out, you know, how much local comedy do you want to do? Because then you're going to get booked on the road and all that material's gone, and you got to have 30 minutes of something that'll work wherever you're going, you know? So that's the challenge.
Exactly. So do you remember that first open mic, and how did you prepare for it?
I did not prepare well. I drank about 8 beers.
Oh boy.
And then I walked over there, and then I signed up, and then I went to the bar next door, and I drank another beer, and then I met a comic. She's a mom. She's you know, maybe in her 40s or something, and you know, she had been doing it, so she was talking to her for a little bit, and then we did a shot together, and then I drank another beer. I was so nervous, and again, clearly I had a drinking problem. So I just got really drunk, and then I just went up and kind of riffed, I guess, for whatever 3 to 5 minutes, and it went well enough to keep doing it. Like, it didn't go so bad that I'm like, I'm never doing that again. It went like, and even my buddy who was there, he was like, that was not terrible. That was all right. That was okay. And I was like, oh boy. So then, and I know I've heard a lot of comics say similar things where it's like, if the first time goes well enough, you just keep doing it. So, but I remember after that, anytime I tried to do it drunk, it just never went well. So like even though I was drinking a lot, I got to a point where I wouldn't go up drunk. I would wait till afterwards to start drinking, which isn't necessarily better, but like I would usually like.
You were at least going to be professional.
Yeah, I was.
Air quotes.
and you know, I realized pretty quickly I can't do it if I'm drunk, because I just had a couple of sets where it's like, oh, this is not that open mic. This is not going well. So I figured that part out. But yeah,
if you're willing to, can you explain to me? Because I get that a lot from comics that I talk to who have gone sober. What is the difference in your mind? How would you describe that difference of how you perform on stage when you're drunk versus, and knowing that distinction of how it doesn't go well when you're drunk versus when you're sober, especially if maybe you kept that same approach of just going on stage and riffing and not necessarily.
Well, so I do like writing a set list. I really like having my thoughts planned out beforehand. It never goes according to that plan, but I do notice that even sober, if I don't have any plan at all, it'll be too unorganized. I like having a little chaos in there, but it's got to have, the structure as well.
Yeah.
So like if I was drunk, there would never be any structure. And like riffing is like it's a balancing act, and you're improvising, you're balancing things, you're trying to call back. Like you're using your brain a lot. So if you're drunk, that's not going to go well, right? Like it's it's just like, if you're drunk, you can't drive a car well, you can't do a lot of things well. You probably aren't going to be the best cook because oh shit, that's still cooking. No. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you just forget things like that. So I mean, for me, and I don't know about everyone else, but it's just like there's no organization, so I couldn't at least riff properly because I'm just all over the map. I don't have the ability to like, oh, this would be a good thing to call back, or this would be a good thing to draw off the crowd here. This and like none of those skills. Your motor skills are gone.
Yeah.
So like when I'm on stage, even if I have like my bullet point jokes that I want to, so that's the other thing. If I have a set list and I was drunk, I'm really not following that. Like I'm going to forget that.
Yeah.
At least if I'm not drunk, I'll like, if I get a little off course on something, I'll still know, oh, okay, so I got to get back into this chunk, the dating stuff, and then this and this and that. So it's just like you have no organization. And so the few drunk comics who are really good, it's different with them. When they're I guess alcohol affects them in a way where they can be creative and like draw and do those things, but that's not most people. It's really not. And
well, I don't know why, but Doug Stanhope comes to mind.
Yeah, Doug Stanhope's a perfect example. But like he is one in a million literally. And like Ron White, who I think quit drinking, but he was, because it's just in general, and I'm sure you've seen comics who aren't those two, who when they're drunk, you're like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
This isn't the same, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's at that point, it's unprofessional if you can't handle it. Like it's, so I figured that part out quickly, that it's like, oh, this is unprofessional. And then the rest of it was just like, okay, I'm not going up on stage drunk, but I'm not writing because I'm getting drunk. I'm not going out to as many mics or shows because, I was drunk or whatever. Yeah. So it's like it just starts to hinder other parts of your life, even if it's not impacting that set. It's just wasn't good for me. So, but
when did you feel like things were starting to roll positively for you when it comes to comedy?
I would say end of 2018. So I quit my job in 2018, kind of in the middle of it. I was working corporate finance in Detroit, and I just hated it. And at that point, I'd paid off my student loans, and I'd saved some money, and I'd worked there for a couple of years, and I had been doing comedy the whole time. But I was like, when you have a corporate job, you have no like freedom to go do stuff. Like even when I would take personal time off, right? I'd still be getting, hey, where are you? It's like, oh, I took a vacation. I'm on vacation. They're like, oh, right. Okay. Well, can you still look this thing up for me? And it's like, when that's happening, it's like, and they're just not even a comedy vacation. This is just, I'm on vacation. This is New Year's. You gave me the time off. You approved it. And you still got to do stuff like that. So, so I quit doing that and started going full time into comedy. And I've, the whole time I've had side jobs and stuff just to make some money. But like, once I quit, and I started just doing as much comedy as I could, I'd start to go to Chicago because that's like 4 hours from Detroit. So once I started like just leaving and going to other places more, I started to feel myself get better and stronger on stage. And then I started to have, like you had mentioned the Detroit to LA thing that happened in 2019. That was like end of 2018 going into 2019. Then I went out to LA and, 2019 did the Burbank Festival and did some other stuff. So I had some really good momentum going into 2020, and then COVID shut it all down. But that's something where there's so many people who had the same thing.
Sure,
so it's like, I'm not going to be like, well, I had momentum. It's like a lot of people have momentum. Yeah. It's like, it wasn't personal. They weren't like, ooh, they weren't like, Markus is doing well in comedy, let's shut it down. That's not what happened. But so it's just so so during the pandemic I was drinking even more because I had nothing to do, right? And that's many people had that story too. Sure. So it was like, once I decided, hey, I got to stop doing that, then I started going, that's when we came down to Texas the first time. So it's kind of back to the same thing of like, let's go on the road, let's try something different. So and that's when it started, kind of picking up again. We went to Dallas, came to Austin, and it's kind of been trying to get it restarted from there. So it's been good since then, since we came to Texas.
So do you feel like that some of that momentum is back in your corner?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's going to be different. You can't. It's never going to be the same as it was. And but yeah, it's definitely. I feel it back, and I feel myself growing again, and going out and doing a lot of spots, and then there's also the adjusting period, right? Where it's like, okay, so, we were doing comedy. It's like, okay, there's only so many places open. We're in a new scene. And, so you kind of got to figure out, you got to redefine that momentum too. You can't be like, well, this is what it used to, blah, blah, blah. It's like, everything's going to be a little different. You got to be, and that's why I like having the set list, but you got to be able to adjust from that. I like having goals, but you got to be able to adjust those as you go on. I like having a plan, but sometimes you gotta okay, no, this is actually makes more sense. Now that I've moved this far down the plan, I understand that the next step I thought doesn't really make sense at this point. I should think about, pivoting in a different way.
Yeah.
So, not being stubborn on stuff like that, because if you get too stubborn, it's like, you're not gonna, you're just gonna, I have to keep doing this. And it's like I've seen people like that. They're like, this has to happen. And it's like, okay, I get why you wanted that. But at this point, you just want that to have that check box.
Yeah.
But it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
So whatever that is for people.
Yeah. So before the pandemic, for a lot of Austin comics, that check mark was making it far or to finals of FPIA. And post pandemic, there's so many people that compete in that, and the scene is so different that that's less of a check mark. I think in today's parlance, I think a lot of people think that the Kill Tony spot is that check mark. And for some people it can be. I mean, Genevieve was able to turn it into a red band invitation that then, she was able to make something of it, adapt, her plan. And other people, it's like, okay, well, you got on Kill Tony, but how did you adapt? Or are you hanging everything on this minute that you did?
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of people moving to Austin, especially I think the newer comics who they think, I'm going to get on Kill Tony, I'm going to get Secret Show, I'm going to open for Joe Rogan, they're going to fly me to London, I'm going to do all, and it's like, that's the rarest case. You know what I mean?
It's like getting the gold wrapper in Willy Wonka.
Yeah. And a lot of these comics they're just not even happy that they got a chocolate bar to begin with. It's like, you still got to eat some chocolate. You're in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you got to have your own path. You can't put all your eggs on a basket like that. That specifically is such a crazy basket to put everything in, because it's like the risk is so high and the chances are so low. So it's literally like buying the Mega Millions ticket. It's like, well, sure, if you win, you'll be a millionaire. But when you don't, like, are you still going to go to work tomorrow? You don't buy the ticket and then quit your job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to see if you win first. But I don't know. I think, the FPIA thing, that's kind of what the Detroit to LA thing was in Detroit, where it's like it's a big contest at the big club and everyone wants to go win it. And it's still a good contest here because, if you win that, you get a lot of status in the city and you can leverage that in other ways. And I think there's a cash prize or something, which is, money's always nice.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still like, and I know a lot of the comics who sign up, they spend every Monday, they'll spend 4, 5, 6 hours signing up, right? Because it's like, you got to get there early, you got to sign up, then you got to wait, and then you got to, and it's like, that's 6 hours that you probably could have spent at 3 or 4 different open mics. You could have done 10 to 15 minutes of stage time tonight, actually developed, rather than taking a 1% chance at a 1-minute set and so forth. And that's not to say you should never do it, but it's like every Monday for forever? Yeah. Well, this might be the one. It's like, it might be the one. But okay, let's say you get picked.
Did you do the homework leading up to that?
Did you do the
point?
homework? Yeah. It's like, okay, you got picked. Are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. And again, a lot of the people think they're ready, but they're not. And then there's the people who just, are discouraged by it and don't want to do it at all. So there's the balance of it. But yeah, I mean, we got here right when Kill Tony was kind of getting here, so we don't know anything about what the old Austin scene looked like. Yeah. So when people tell us about it, it's always like, okay, it's interesting to know what it was like before, because it kind of adds a lot of context to what it is now.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like there was nothing here.
Wow, yeah.
There was a whole, there was a whole scene going on. Velveeta Room.
Yeah.
which is, I think, it's one of my favorite rooms because I like small little rooms like that because you can, the laughs just bounce, and they just stay in there forever. But I don't know. I think, the other thing is with the show like Kill Tony moving here, the types of people who, those are the kind of people who will follow it, is people who are like, this is my chance, this is my lottery ticket. And it's like, sometimes those aren't the best comics. Yeah. The people who think it's all going to blow up on one shot, but, But
be
that's
realistic,
the thing.
People.
Be realistic, but also like only because if Kill Tony's what brought you to Austin, that's fine because there's so much other things going on here. Like you can develop and do other things. You don't have to, and you can still sign up for Kill Tony.
Yeah.
But don't let that control your life.
Yeah.
I've seen that in people, and it's like, it's okay. There's other stuff. Go do there's a mic here and a mic here and a mic here. But, yeah. Okay,
we're going to take a pause break and do this card game because after that, I want to ask about your podcast addiction.
Okay.
My description, podcast addiction.
Okay.
Maybe not really. Not given that you had an alcohol addiction.
Oh, yeah,
Probably not the right terminology to use.
I have an addictive personality for sure.
So the way this card game works, it's from an author, psychologist, lady. I shouldn't have added that. Esther Perel, where should we begin? It's all open-ended questions. So you're going to point to a card, and I will read it to you after you read the other card. So pick the one that you want me to read to you. All right. So read that one to me, and I'll answer, and then it'll be your turn.
I'm proud I stood up for myself when.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, gosh.
That's a hard one, right? I'm like, man, I'm glad I picked that one.
Gosh, looking back, so I've got a senior in high school, and I am so stinking proud of this kid. And I think that his path would have been so different if I had not stood up and divorced his dad.
Hey, that's. Is there a clap? Do you have? I don't know if you have a soundboard, but there's
right
a clap.
There. You can
Which
find
one's
one.
the clap?
It's fine if it's. There we go. Yeah. and not to disparage him. I mean, we didn't work great as married people, but as a co-parent, we rocked it.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah. There was that time, and then the time that I wrote. I was so young. And so, rose-colored glasses, I wrote to the governor of Arizona because he refused, and I was a Texan kid, because he refused to recognize MLK Day in Arizona.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was so pissed because he was such a racist. But, nothing really came of that. It eventually became a federal holiday anyway, so he lost.
Damn.
Yeah. Damn!
No, I meant damn like nothing ever came of that. I didn't mean it like that. I meant it like that, and that that they had a racist governor, and that it took the federal government. That I meant it damn like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Right.
See, sometimes it comes out wrong. No.
All right. Okay. When I look in the mirror, the first thing I see.
That's the question?
That's the question.
And this is again back to what we talked about earlier. The first thing I see is just the person who's made all those mistakes. And I don't want to say that's every time I look in the mirror. Yeah. I think that's certain times I look in the mirror because there are other times, and it's happened recently, or you look in the mirror and you're like, no, I'm proud of myself for certain things. You know what I mean? So I guess I go back and forth, but again, it's the initial reaction is sometimes you suck, you're the worst. And again, it's just like that self-criticism is not always healthy. You have to have it because, we're talking about people who put all their eggs in one basket. There's also people who will never self-criticize themselves. They'll have the worst set ever and be like, that was great. And it's like, you don't want to be that either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of times I look in the mirror and I see my flaws before I see anything else. And it sucks because I know again, like I said, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh no, I have good things about me as well.
Yeah.
And I guess it depends on how the day goes. If it's obviously first thing in the morning, sometimes I'll be negative. But I think if I've had a good day or a good stretch of shows or some good sets, or I signed up for health insurance the other day, something where you're like, hey, I did something real, or I changed my light in my car, I had to take the bumper off and do a Like I'm not a mechanic, and I don't know a lot of things about. But like anytime I can change a light, it gives me this boost of masculinity that I don't know if I need. But like I like little things, like changing a headlight, and I'm just like, yeah, I did that. So like little things like that. Then I'll be like, oh yeah. I changed the headlight today. So I think it just depends on I think the mirror reflects back what you've created that day. Whatever,
Sure.
If you've created positive momentum and like karma and stuff that day. I think I look in the mirror and think more positive things.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, my initial reaction in the morning is sometimes just like, this guy again. Oh, no. But, yeah.
Well, for anybody that has not actually seen you, of course, if they're listening, they're going to see the cover art of you. To me, the first thing that I would expect you to see is the beard. And I will do a callback to, I was watching the episode that you and Genevieve were on the William Montgomery show, and you were lamenting how you hadn't found a barber yet. Mm-hmm. And the beard then looks very different than the beard now.
Sure.
Did you find a barber that you trust?
No, I have
is this
scissors.
self-made?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
And this is I think probably a month or two without. But I think the William Montgomery one, it had been a while. But yeah, I mean, I have scissors and I have a little buzzer shaver thing, so I can do some myself. And I think part of it is like, I don't want to pay a barber because it's just like I know
in
what
Austin.
Well, yeah, and I imagine they're expensive, but I just like, I don't know. I figure I can make it look fine enough. Anytime I do anything to it. There's only one person who says anything semi-negative about it, and he's a barber. Oh. He's a barber and a comic, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is if he's listening to it, but and he doesn't mean it mean. He just means it like I could do it better than that. I'm like, I bet you could. Is it free? No. Okay. All right. Sorry. I can afford free right now, but hopefully one day I can afford to pay someone to do it. But it's also just a thing where it's like I don't know. There's nothing worse than because I used to have hair and get a haircut and stuff. There's nothing worse than getting a haircut and you're like, yeah, I paid for that. That's the worst. You pay for a haircut, you're like, I paid for that. I guess I can't not pay for it, but it's worse than a bad meal because the meal you're done, you're like, oh, you could throw that away and no one knows about it. But the haircut, that's you for a while. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little sensitive about the beard and I don't want it to get messed up, and that's a fear I have. That's because it's like hair. You go, okay, now you just got to cut it all out. Oh, you messed it up. You keep messing it up, and then it's just messed up.
Yeah.
So no.
As a mom to a kid who has decided that he's just going to cut his own hair, I kind of have to bite my tongue sometimes about the efficacy of his accomplishments. It's gotten better.
Yeah.
With more practice, but
see, with the beard, it's really just like I just need to chop the length, and then I can do a little buzz on the sides, but and then I'll shave my head, you know what I mean? But so that's just a situation where I have Genevieve look at the back. Did I miss any spots? But when you're cutting it's intricate. You can't. I can't imagine cutting your own hair if you have actual hair.
Yeah.
That sounds like a challenge. Yeah. But
okay. Let's talk about this podcast issue that you have. So I counted at least 4, I think.
Oh, sure. That's about half of them.
I didn't even list it. I listed somewhere else. So there's the Real Open Mics of Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, that one.
There's the Porn and Capitalism podcast.
Yeah, there's that one.
There's Works Every Time. And I feel like I missed another one. But these kind of represent different phases of Markus.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the first time I ever recorded and released some podcasts, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was in college. It was on my iPad, literally just me talking into my iPad.
Oh, wow.
And I would just put them out on SoundCloud. I don't even remember what those were called.
Oh, I did find a link to SoundCloud. I do really good research. Oh, but it just goes user dash, so I don't have the name.
Oh, user. Okay. So, I mean, I maybe did 10, 15. And those were kind of just me ranting, and they were sports related sometimes and sometimes not. But it was a lot of sports on those ones. And then I think I threw that one away. But that was when I had done my first couple mics in college, and it was my end of college, and I had an iPad, and I was like, I can talk into an iPad, so I threw that one away, and then I think I started another one. Maybe we did a couple episodes, me and a buddy, but that one maybe 3 episodes. Now I don't even remember what that one was called. Then I did the open mics one. And that one I started just by myself, and I just wanted to like, I just really wanted to get back into podcasting because I like podcasting so much, and I had done other people's podcasts and all this stuff, and it was just like, all right, I have a microphone, let me do this. So I started doing that one, and that one I did for a while. I'm trying to think when I started that one. 2019. Because I was getting ready to go out to LA, and I was like, okay, I want to have a podcast. Just because it just seemed like a thing to do at that point. Like everyone was doing. So I was like, okay, let me start one. I had been doing the open mics one. It was really just me recapping my week in comedy. Okay. That's all it was. And then I went out to LA, and I was living with Justin Essemacher, and I was like, hey, you want to do my podcast, one of these? So then he did an episode, and it was fun. So then we just started co-hosting it together, and then we changed it from the open mics to the real open mics in Hollywood because we were living out there. And then it just like, so that was the one I probably did the longest. And then while we were doing that, me and Justin both started our own solo podcast. Okay. So that was the porn capitalism one or whatever. And then he has his going through it podcast. So then I was doing those two. And then when we were living in Dallas, it was a lot easier because we were living together. Okay. But once we moved to Austin, it was like we weren't living together. So, I did have to drive to his place. He'd have to come to my place. So eventually it just got to be too much, and we stopped doing it. And then I eventually stopped doing my solo podcast because I was just like, I wasn't having fun with it. I didn't have the equipment anymore because I had kind of given that to him. And I just like, I had also done a German soccer podcast during the pandemic. Sorry, I forgot about that one.
I had no idea. I was scratching the surface.
No, I mean that was one because it was like I really like sports. There were no sports during COVID. The German Bundesliga was the first major sports league to come back during COVID, and so I was just like, let me just do a podcast about this. It's the only sport going on. So I did maybe 10 or 15 episodes of that, and then So I hadn't podcasted in probably 2 years until we started the Works Every Time podcast. Just because, like, there's so much to do in Austin comedy-wise outside of podcasting. So I had just been busy. And then, me and Justin kind of talked about, hey, we should do the podcast again. I was like, okay, but I want to rebrand it. I don't want to, it's got to be something new, something different. And then our buddy Phil, who's from Dallas, we actually met him up there before, and then we all kind of moved down here around the same time. But he's originally from Fort Worth area, so he was like, "Oh, you guys are doing your podcast again? I want to be on it to just because me and Justin fight a lot on the podcast. That kind of turned into the dynamic. Maybe that's why I think that's part of why we stopped. It was getting a little toxic, and it was just like it wasn't good for the friendship. So now that we have Phil kind of like keeping us separated and stuff like that, and we have rules on the podcast. One of them is you have to, if you get too negative, you got to say something positive, which I think is a good rule for life because I've noticed I've just noticed like on that podcast, sometimes we do get a little negative, and like when we do point out the rule, it's like, oh, this is a good, let's say something positive, and it kind of helps things out. So that's been good. But I like podcasting. It's like, I think the other issue is I don't have any of the knowledge of producing it. Like any of this stuff, I'm lost. Like if it's not just like that's why the first one was just me and an iPad, right? And then once Mike's got involved, I started getting like, I don't know what I'm doing. So part of it was also like uploading and all the editing and everything. Like this is a lot of work, and so there just got to be times where the work was a lot, and then me and Justin would split some of it, and then it's like who's doing more, who's doing what. So when we started this podcast up, I was like, look, I'm not good at producing this stuff. I'm not good at editing this stuff. I'm not good at a lot of these tools. So just let's know that going in. We have a producer for it. He does a ton of work. He's awesome. And like I think if we didn't have that and we didn't have Phil kind of being the mediator, I don't know if this would have. And we've only done like 10 episodes, but I don't even know if we would have gotten that far. You know what I mean? Because it's just like I don't have those skill sets. And it's another thing with comedy where like I have the skill set on stage, but I can't produce shows. I can't get people to show up. Really? I can't market that stuff. Like it's a different skill set. And I've seen people who are good at that. And if you're not good at that, it's really hard to get people to show up to shows because like you got to figure out how to market to who, how to make the flyer look good enough. And there's so many other shows in Austin. It's like now I got to compete with all. It's like it's not easy. So I respect anyone who can do that stuff because I can't do it. But
interesting because you're a planner and organizer, and yet this area that you know very well as a performer. I'm surprised.
Well, so on the podcast end, technology, I'm not that good with.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody
That
is.
part,
That's,
yeah. And
that
but
stuff
the
sucks.
marketing, the shows thing, it's like, I mean, I've had some success with it, but I know it takes a lot of time, and I don't have enough time to do it at a level where it's going to work. I know it takes money. I don't have enough money to devote to that and do it in a way where I'm like, this is like, if I had an unlimited budget and unlimited time, I'm sure I could promote well. But like, given the resources and the limitations on those, it's like, do I really want it? Because I've done it. But it's just like, you might break even.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that worth it? That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of it. It's like, I don't think I'm the worst producer or marketer for shows.
Yeah.
But it's like, you just have to get to a point where you're like, is it worth me doing it? When there's other people who produce shows and are good at it and like to do it and are already doing it, it's like, do I really need to start a show from scratch? Or, the shows I've had in the past where it's just like, sometimes you get involved with a venue that doesn't really care about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, as soon as you realize the venue doesn't care, this show's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, it's a different skill set. It's something that, I don't really have that.
Yeah.
But, and I like to focus on the comedy, I've realized, like, you only have so much energy, you only have so much time, you got to pick and choose where you use that, because if you try to do everything, it's like you're going to spread yourself. It's like, on the one hand, yeah, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but if you put one egg in every basket, it's like, well, you're not making an omelet with one egg. You got to get all your baskets together at some point, but consolidate a little bit. There's a balance with all that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Are you doing traveling?
So we did just go to Florida.
Oh, okay.
That was about, what is today? Today's Saturday. So like last week, Wednesday, Thursday, we were in Tampa. So we did 2 shows out there at the Sunshine City Comedy Club. That was really cool. This is a short turnaround trip. And again, that was one where we had a producer who did the stuff and, booked the flights and did everything. So that helps. But yeah, that was fun. We got some San Antonio gigs lined up for February, I think. I'd have to look, but I think next week. Yeah. I don't know, when does this come out?
This is going to come out end of February.
End of February. Okay, all right.
You were just in San Antonio.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming out to San Antonio. And then March, we got some San Antonio stuff too. We're trying to plan some Michigan stuff for this summer.
Oh, cool.
Trying to go back to Michigan and do some shows. But yeah, I mean, right now, that's kind of what we got. So I do know that we wanted to do a Works Every Time show in Dallas soon. So we haven't lined anything up yet, but we wanted to do a show with the 3 of us, me, Justin, and Phil on it. So yeah, just trying to work stuff out. Again, I like booking road gigs. Because again, it's like, if you can book a show and they're like, oh yeah, we got the venue and we'll market and they do all that. It's like, okay, I like outsourcing certain things, because it's if you do everything, it's not going to happen. But so yeah, I do want to try to do some Works Every Time shows in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, because it's kind of close to here, but not Austin.
Yeah.
Mix it up, but
Makes sense.
yeah.
So how did you get involved with Sunset Strip?
I mean, I worked for Vulcan for 2 years.
Okay.
I got the Vulcan job on Kill Tony. I went up on Kill Tony, and they were like, oh, do you what do you do for work? And I was like, I just moved here looking for work. And they hired me at Vulcan because the owner was right there. So this is when it was still at Antone's. But so I worked for Vulcan for 2 years. And then when Sunset opened, I moved over there. And I mean, I like working there. I like working at a comedy club, because you're literally working and you can go do a set.
Yeah.
Like at the same time.
Yeah.
I've had so many different jobs, and it's like, at a comedy club, you can be yourself. Like when I worked corporate finance, you can't be yourself. No. You can't like the jokes. It's like having to work clean, but worse. It's the worst. It's like, because everyone's, and I remember looking around and everyone looked so miserable, and I was like, I can't even joke around here with you guys. And it's at the comedy club, obviously you make way less money than corporate finance, but it's like, the freedom to just be yourself, and, still, hey, some comic didn't show up. You want to do a set real quick. That happened last night. So it's just like, that's why I'm in Austin. I didn't come here to do anything other than comedy. So, but I understand that, you need a job, you got to pay your bills. So it's like being able to double dip there at a comedy club is nice. I'm not necessarily a morning person, even though I have another morning job too. I like that one because it's like I get free brisket. That's nice.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. You got to work for it,
Yeah.
but it's the benefit of working at a restaurant. But I like working at Sunset because it's just it's chill. It's not too intense. You know what I mean? And I mean I can handle intense jobs. Sometimes it gets busy, and it's when it's busy, it's intense. It's any place, but I do like just being able to do spots when you're at work because there's no other job where you can like. Oh, hey, go follow your dreams for 10 minutes and come back and do some dishes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no jobs are like, you go do your dream for like 5-10 minutes and then come back.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had a job like that. So that's really cool. Like I said, even when I worked at corporate finance, they'd be asking you to do stuff on your vacation. And here it's just like, I know you're technically on our clock right now, but go do this real quick and come back. So it's cool that they encourage you to do that. And then just working at a place where you can be yourself and, not have to worry, be on, eggshells all the time about like, don't say anything stupid. Yeah. There it's like, you said something stupid. Okay, well, don't use that one on stage. Like when you bomb in front of your coworkers, it's just like, okay, all right, well, whatever. It's not, you've seen me bomb on stage, you've seen me bomb in front of it doesn't matter. But, when if you're in like a corporate meeting and you try to slip a clean joke in and it just bombs miserably, you're like, all right, let's talk about these figures now, I guess. Let's talk about Q2. How's Q2 look? And you just had to sit there the rest of the meeting like I look like an idiot. It's the worst. But I don't know. So I like working at comedy clubs. It's nice. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much tie-in there is with the mothership. I know that Red Band is co-owner of Sunset Strip, but like the thing that I keep going back to with the mothership is it's the first time Austin has seen like a true apprenticeship program. So it's
in comedy.
Yeah, in comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what else. Hopefully other.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, there's got to be
that.
some, like a welder or something.
Yeah, right.
I've driven on these roads. I don't know if they have them on for the road crews, but
yeah. So it sounds like Sunset Strip is maybe an informal apprenticeship.
Sure. I mean, it's just like comedy. Just you have to do it a lot. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like one of those things where. There are classes for it. There's, I know there's comics who are like, I'm not going to go do a mic. I'm going to stay home and write. And it's like, okay, writing is super important. But at the end of the day, you got to get as many reps in as you can because that's the only true way to prepare. And even if you can spend 3 hours writing, you don't know if any of that stuff's good until you try it. So, I mean, I think the fact that Austin has all these clubs on that little street, on 6th Street is important because you can just get the reps in quickly. And then, you can work at Vulcan Creek, Mothership, or Sunset, and all 4 of those spots, like, they'll let you do time while you're working, taking out trash and stuff. So it's just like, the point of an apprenticeship is like, hey, we're trying to build your skills for the future, but, ideally you're getting paid for your time now. Because, like, a lot of the times where, like, if you're in college, you're trying to build skills for the future, and you are not getting paid at all. You're actually paying to do it, right? So it's like, that's such a disadvantage where, if you were doing an apprenticeship, it's like you're learning and making money to pay for your food tonight, your rent this month. Like, you can take care of your expenses while investing in your future. Like, investing in your future doesn't have to mean you get nothing now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, it is cool that you can, because otherwise you just have to do your mics in your free time and you have to work in your work time. And the fact that you can kind of overlap those two together, it gives you flexibility. It gives you, a place to be yourself and make money at the same time. It's like, it's nice when the place where you make your money is somehow related to what you want your career to be, right? Because it's like if you're doing an apprenticeship, you're like, no, I want to be an auto mechanic. That's what in 35 years I want to be a retired auto mechanic. So now I'm going to invest my time now so I can do that. It's like if you want to be a comic, in 35 years a comic who's touring or whatever, it's like, okay, how much of your time can you invest now towards that? And if you got to spend 7 hours at a place washing cars or whatever, or whatever it is, if it has nothing to do with comedy, it's like those are 7 hours that you needed that to sustain, but those were 7 hours you couldn't really devote to comedy at all, unless you're writing in your head the whole time. But that's that requires a lot of discipline that a lot of people don't have. So
Exactly.
I like working there. It's fun. It's good.
Cool. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want people to know about you?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered so much. I don't know. I mean, check out the Works Every Time podcast. Yes, we looked at. Yeah, I don't know. I just like come to Austin if you've never been here. I don't know how much of the audience is non-Austin, but like come here if you haven't been here. You know, and if you are like a new comic or something like that, like I was talking to a comic the other day who's not even a new comic. He's been doing it for like a year or two, but he doesn't get up that much. And I was just like, you know, he had got asked to do a show last minute. You know, I was talking like where you get asked, hey, can you go do a spot real quick?
Yeah.
He got asked to do that, and he ended up saying, I can't do it because he was nervous. And I was like, you know, I was just talking to him. He's a good friend of mine, so I was like just talking him through it. And I was like, do you want to do this? He's like, yeah, I want to do comedy. I was like, all right, you need to be doing as many mics as you can. Like in Austin, you can be doing 2, 3, 4, you know, a night sometimes. That's a lot, obviously, but you can do 4 in a night. So I was, you know, we're talking, and I was like, what are you doing right now? And he was like, well, I was going to sit here, blah, 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 maybe go home right. I was like, let's go to Creek right now. So we go to Creek. He does the mic, and then he texts me later. He was like, thank you so much for making me. It's just like, yeah, you know, you got to just go do it. So if you're a young comic, and I was there too, where it's just like, I don't know where to start. It's just like, find other comics who know where to go.
Yeah.
And just ask them. Like you the more you ask, the more information you get, and then you just got to force yourself to do it. Because if you don't force yourself to do stuff, like nobody makes you do comedy.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like working out where like unless you have a personal trainer or you have a coach, like nobody's making you do anything in life. Like there's so much of life where it's like nobody's making you do this. And comedy is one of those things where it's like you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if you want to do this, you have to want to do this because otherwise it's just never going to happen.
Right,
so
right.
That's all I would say. It's just, you know, follow your dreams.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now I have noticed, I know I said we were going to be done talking about the comedy power couple thing, but I have been noticing a little thing on your...
Oh, yeah, we're engaged. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was going to say, are congratulations in order?
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess, was she not wearing the ring when we did this last, when you interviewed her? I don't remember.
Well, I don't think she was doing this.
Oh, she's talking with her hands?
Yeah, she doesn't talk with her hands, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, we got engaged like last May.
Okay.
And we just, again, don't know how to tell people. Because, like, we told, like, I when we first got officially engaged, we've been dating like 5.5 years. So it's like we've talked about it, you know, and then when we finally got engaged, like I remember I texted my mom, which is maybe a mistake. I should have called, whatever. I texted her and she sends me a thumbs up emoji. So I was like, okay, all right, this is my German mom, right? So then we call her mom and her mom's like, why now? You know, like, okay. And we're like, she's like, I mean, I'm happy, but like, I just, you know, what changed? Why now? Blah, blah, blah. And then we called her dad and her dad was like, hey, I'm running in, I'll call you right back. So then he calls us back. We're like, we got engaged. And he's like, that's it? I got stuff to do. I mean, good, nice, but I got, you know. So, like, those are the first 3 people we told. So kind of from there, we're like, what if we just don't go around telling everybody all the time? So then what happened is our material adjusted because we'd start saying fiance or engaged or whatever. So then people would start hearing it and they'd be like, when did you get engaged? Like, they were, like, mad at us because we didn't tell them. And I was like, sorry, I don't know what to tell. So yeah, but thank you. Yeah, we're engaged. So we're working on trying to figure out when exactly we're gonna get married. Hopefully later this year.
Yeah.
That's
well,
the plan.
and nobody's gonna know about it, right? Because
we'll have to tell people about that. But yeah, I mean, so the plan is we're gonna just do like a courtroom wedding and then have a sweatpants after party. So you got to wear your best sweatsuit.
Nice.
Nothing fancy, but yeah, just something relaxed because it's like, you know, the sweatpants after party we had talked about for about 2 or 3 years.
It's hilarious.
So that part was more official than anything else, other than just so we're doing a sweatpants after party, right? It's like, okay, we'll do sweatpants after. So, but yeah, no. So more to come. Hopefully, we'll have a date soon, but we're working on that.
Okay, sorry for that detour.
No, that's probably the most important part of the podcast. So.
All right. Well, are you ready for your closing question?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
One word to describe your future.
Beautiful.
Ah, nice. Look at
Yeah.
that. Go from grown to beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I do try to be optimistic and just like, you know, I know that the future is it's gonna be with Genevieve. It's gonna be doing comedy. It's gonna be a lot in Austin. I hope. I love Austin. It's great. So it's like, you know, when I look at the future, I'm like, because I think the thing with the past is you know what the mistakes were. When I look at the future, it's like, yeah, there's negative stuff, but like I'm always aiming at all the positive stuff. Like I know there's going to be negative stuff.
Yeah.
But there's so much, like, you know, and I think part of that is when you have goals and plans and things like that, it's like, okay, you have stuff to look forward to. So it's like, what does your future look like? Well, it's like, I mean, do you really want to know? Because like I have a painting in my head of what it looks like. It's like that's going to take a while, but you know.
Yeah.
No, I think it's. I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very good to hear. I like the positive focus so that
I
you can
try.
tamp down that
I know.
natural reaction that you have.
I know.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents Markus Olind. Markus, tell us where we can find you on social media and promote your projects.
At Beard Von Markus, BeardVon Markus with a K. That's on Twitter and Instagram. I post clips on there, podcast clips, stand-up clips. Any dates I have will all be on there. So if you want to check me out, go on there.
Okay, very good. Well, we hope you've enjoyed learning about how Markus got to be the comedic genius that you heard today, just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham Presents Markus Olind. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Markus.
Thank you for having me.